KwaZulu-Natal Director of Public Prosecutions, Advocate Elaine Harrison, says the National Prosecuting Authority noticed a higher success rate in solving political killings cases in the province. Speaking at the Madlanga Commission, Harrison says there were many successful prosecutions in 2025. She was confirming what National Commissioner Fani Masemula and Head of Governance, Legislation and Policy at the Legal Division at SABC, that's Major General Petronella van Rooyen, said earlier about the success rate of the political killings task team. The Commission has adjourned for the day.
If you look at our database with regards to the cases, the finalized cases, for example, in 2025, all the matters that have been recorded there are successful prosecutions. But we don't go and say, okay, but we also look at in the previous years, how have we been doing with regards to those cases? And we do find that we rate ourselves regarding, I wouldn't say always successful, but finalized because of the complaints that had been there regarding the prosecution of these matters under court roll. But if you look at prior to the dedicated capacity and after the dedicated capacity was provided, you will find that there was a higher finalization rate of these cases and higher success rates of the cases.
All right, joining us for further analysis on proceedings at the Madlanga Commission of Inquiries, Dr Mpho Matlala. He's from the College of Law School of Criminal Justice at UNISA. Doctor, good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us on the program. Now, today, of course, it was the turn of the KZN NPA head to assist the Commission. Now, in the main, we heard Advocate Harrison confirming that the effectiveness of the political killings task team, even going as far as saying if she had been consulted, she would have argued against the de-establishment of that team. Your views on this?
No, thank you very much, and good afternoon to you and to the viewers. And indeed, I would have concurred with her arguments in terms of arguing against the disestablishment of the team. She did put out a clear framework. In fact, it was quite interesting when the commissioners was asking her to say, if you're going to talk about the success rates, what exactly are you making comparisons against? And the framework was very clear. Excuse me. The framework was very clear. She indicated that they were looking year on year, comparing the statistics, which she did indicate that they are available, and you know they can be availed to the commission. And also she spoke to part of the framework was making comparisons prior to the
dedicated resources.
Yes, prior to the dedicated resources and post, and there were clear shifts there which point out to the reasons not to disband. You know, I know that. Yes.
But Doctor, that statement itself, to say if consulted, it was quite loaded because it was followed by another revelation that not only was she not consulted, even though prosecutions formed a critical part of this team, she also wasn't formally informed on the disbandment. She found out on social media, or at least that's what we heard from her today. Your take on just that you've got a critical cog in this broader machine to do away with political killings. That's the NPA, because we're hearing that these are prosecutions-led investigations. She was not consulted to find out if it's effective. But beyond that, there's no courtesy to actually inform her that it's going to be disbanded. She finds out on social media.
Whatever the reasons were for the minister to disband, he will be here to actually explain himself. But my view is that it was a haphazard decision, not well thought through throughout. You know, it wasn't, there was no scientific approach. Probably maybe there are political reasons. Whether those political reasons can be considered to be reasonable and justifiable in an open and democratic society, we leave it to the minister to actually come and explain. But what the impact of that decision, of that lack of consultation would have been, is that it disorganized the planning, the strategic planning in as far as the PKTT goes. And this put also operations into disarray. And overall, it frustrated the efforts to investigate. And really, I think a key component of that decision is that it strained the relations, the interdepartmental relations between the NPA in KZN and the SAPS, in particular, also the Office of General Dr Mpho.
And it was quite evident because when General Dr Mpho came to testify, he spoke of what he termed questionable withdrawals of some of these cases. But we heard today from Advocate Harrison that they were not questionable, at least on their part. They actually felt that it was within their mandate to take such decisions. If perhaps there were delays, it's because they did need further clarity before bringing a case before the courts. It needed to be ripe for hearing. But I suppose, given what was happening and the frustrations, there could have been a level of mistrust. But I want us to move from your premise that perhaps there were political considerations here. If we had to toy around with that concept of political considerations that led to the disbandment, the political considerations that we've heard of thus far, at least from the witnesses, is that there was an assertion from the minister that political killings really were a problem pre-1994, not post-1994 in the new dispensation. Advocate Harrison argued against that and said we've just seen in 2019 and beyond that there were genuinely political killings, that not only were these political figures that were being killed, but sometimes it was an agenda around perhaps positions, ascension to certain positions. What did you make of that, and just her warning even to Mkhwanazi that 2026 is around the corner and closer to local government elections or general elections, they see a surge in killings?
To actually say that political killings were a pre-1994 phenomenon is being insensitive. What then do you say to the family of the likes of Cindy Somagaka, who was murdered after 1994? And there are many Cindy Somagakas out there. And I think sometimes politicking for the sake of politicking really takes away the humaneness on the part of the politicians. And that concerns me a lot, because politicians are supposedly public representatives. And this level of insensitivity is in fact quite disconcerting. But indeed, I will concur that the elections are around the corner. There's going to be contestations, that is, within the same party, and people are going to get murdered, they are going to get insulted, they are going to have their political characters assassinated through defamatory statements, and it is also going to be inter-party from one party to the other. And, the environment, the political environment is quite fluid, and it becomes highly charged, whether we want to call that politically charged or emotionally charged. But to a certain degree, our politicians in the contestation for power just simply lose their humaneness, or at least some of them. Let me qualify.
But is that perhaps not the reason here why you'd have politicians want to have killings such as these ones not classified as political killings, because they wouldn't want any political party in particular to be seen as a party that has members who display a level of ill discipline and lack of political tolerance? Because if you're going to classify them and say these are political killings, then you have to go and ask yourself, which political party did these specific victims come from, and who were the alleged perpetrators? If you find that perhaps it's IFP, ANC or DA, then it creates a picture or an image of a political party that has ill-disciplined members who will do any and everything to contest elections or positions and want to ascend. So is it not perhaps that discourages politicians from wanting these type of killings to be characterized as political killings, because it would be an indictment on them?
Quite correct. All these factors that you are listing are very plausible. Remember, the political environment, or the character of most politicians themselves, is the character of a chameleon that adapts to every environment and full of misrepresentations, misconceptions, very disingenuous environment that will always want to deflect attention. I mean, I don't mean to pick on any specific political party, but when you come and tell us that a swimming pool, a residential swimming pool, is a fire pool, it just tells you just how much politicians are willing to go to deflect attention and to divert, in this case, to divert investigations and save their own skin, save the brand of their own political party.
And the gentleman who actually made that assertion of a fire pool being a swimming pool is actually the chair of Umkhonto weSizwe Party now. But Doctor, thank you very much for joining us on the program. That is Dr. Mpho Matlala. He is from the College of Law School of Criminal Justice at UNISA, speaking to us there.